Now, next, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Yogesh Mittal for his special remarks. He's CFO and lead strategy, JBM Environment Business Division. So, please.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable professors, dignitaries in the room, dear friends. It's been fascinating. Listen to youngsters share their ideas on emulating, India emulating the China growth story and hear the arguments on both sides. And equally fascinating is the fact that we are living in times where Indian economy to become a $5 trillion economy looks so much a reality. And I'm sure with all our efforts and hard work, in the next couple of years, in a decade's time, we should be able to not only emulate Chinese growth, but without a doubt be able to surpass China and the best countries in the world to emerge as one of the strongest economies. So there should not be a doubt about that. Guys, coming on to the topic that I would like to present, that while we are amid the euphoria of becoming a $5 trillion economy, it's important that, and I'm glad that in the debate we heard a few participants made remarks on the environment and sustainability. The question is, if tomorrow we are going to become a 5 trillion or a 10 trillion or whatever number of economy this is, are we going to develop this at the cost of our environment, or are we going to do it in a more sustainable way so that this growth story can be further taken up by the generations to come? I would like to take your reference to, I'm not sure if this is visible, but the two economic systems. So there have been references about two economic systems that are prevalent in our current times. One is a linear economy model, which follows a take, make, dispose model, which means that the businesses take the raw materials, consume the natural resources, manufacture products, and at the end of it, it leads to something, a huge pileup of waste. So this is the take, make, dispose model, or the linear economy as we refer to. Whereas a circular economy is being able to utilize our resources in a way that it cuts short the consumption of raw materials and natural resources, conduct the manufacturing and our value creation exercises in a more efficient way, and at the same time reduce the huge amount of waste that we would be generating and throwing back in our atmosphere. So the shift from linear economy to circular economy is I would like to highlight to you. So key features of circular economy would be that we have to create our products which are more resourceful, and we should be able to use them over and over again in a multiple times manner. We should be able to reduce the linear line and cut short the consumption of raw materials and also reduce the waste, which means that whatever resources we are available with, we must be able to use these resources in a way that can meet up our requirements. To give you an example, is these trade-offs and schemes where H&M and different textile companies ask us to throw back our denims and our used clothes. And those companies could basically use those as raw materials for creating new products, which otherwise would go in a waste. So it is to taking our world from a huge consumption of raw materials to be able to use the resources available in the system in a better way. It also means widespread use of biodegradable materials and something called as eco-designing of the products. It also involves usage of waste towards energy and other projects. So to give you an example, in China particularly, the awareness and the efforts towards waste management is significantly advanced as compared to India. And we are treading on that path, but there's still a very long way in how Indians are basically going to manage their waste. It also involves localization and a more widespread operations as compared to a centralized operation system. And emergence of new business models. For example, if you go to a Philips store and you would like to buy a bulb or a light from them which has a certain amount of value, instead of getting into this modality, you can parallelly engage in a transaction with Philips where they could provide you the lighting for a certain number of years. And once the life of that bulb or product is worn out, Philips would actually take back that material back to them and use it as valuables. So this is their way of cutting short the usage of natural resources for creation of more products and at the same time reducing the waste in the system. While India is on its way to become a 5 trillion economy, this is certainly not a very good side that we would like to have. The world's biggest polluted countries are in India, and without a doubt, we must be more disciplined with the way we manage the waste in our country. I touch upon the China story. India and China have been doing a lot of things in parallel. While China's real war against pollution and the cutting short of coal plants and a huge amount of emphasis on the renewable power actually started in 2014. That was a similar time when India also launched its Swachh Bharat mission. And there have been certain parallels that one can draw on that. But the key features which China has been able to implement so far is that it has suspended the coal-based plants in a big way and it's able to put its reliance on storage and battery system, particularly with the e-vehicles, which India is struggling to do it. It is a fact that China is significantly advanced in the way they manage their solid waste. However, there is still a long way to go as far as curbing the water pollution is concerned, because in China, just like India, we have a more stress on the visible pollutants rather than the ones which are hiding beside us. Well, as we are living in the times where we need to take certain stern measures on an immediate basis for our waste management, here's a look at what actually can be achieved by taking steps in those directions. If Beijing is able to reduce its air pollution in a significant way, if UK, with the Thames River and a very famous story that from a filthy, foul-smelling drain to it has become one of the cleanest rivers in the world, and our own city in Madhya Pradesh, Indore, which is becoming a model city for waste management for 72 nations, and they all are going to follow our example in waste management, then guys, these examples show us that with a little discipline at each one of our levels and with some administrative focus and conviction, we can become truly sustainable 5 trillion economy. It calls for a certain incentives and encouragement and a legal framework and policy making from the administrators to be able to correlate all the dots together and do it in a more participative way. But I would like to leave you with the idea that each one of us can make a significant difference by being aware and by being disciplined in the way we manage our little things in life, and it is for our own benefit that how we become a 5 trillion economy tomorrow. I thank you all for listening to me. Thank you.
Thanks for your wonderful address, and it really highlighted and it really showed that what individual contribution can do towards this toward achieving this dream of $5 trillion dollar economy in next few years or next several years. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Anirban Mukherjee for the concluding remarks. He's the head for the Qualcomm for Good India and Indonesia. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. I'm Anirban Mukherjee, and I'm really honored to be here. It has been extremely well spent morning, And, I'm really impressed the way students presented such diverse perspectives about the subject. Uh, I really learned a lot. Both sides of the argument were very convincingly spoken. Uh, I'll not kind of, take much time. I just want to kind of just speak a few minutes on my work, which is, so I manage a technology innovation program for Qualcomm. As most of you know that, I think that all of you have Qualcomm in your pockets. And so we actually, Qualcomm focuses on two things. One is, of course, the physical manufacture of products, which is, the chips which go inside your mobile phones, and also the underlying technology. So, the underlying technologies of 3G, 4G, and now 5G have been invented and developed by Qualcomm. And Qualcomm has a very innovative business model. So we are a fabless manufacturer. So this is very interesting. So unlike, most companies which actually manufacture the chips, like, like Intel or something, we don't manufacture the chips. We actually go to a contract manufacturer and we get these chips manufactured. So that's actually an innovative business model that we follow. And what I do in Qualcomm is that, I manage a social innovation program, which is on, showing applications of 3G, 4G mobile connectivity for our underserved segments. And currently I manage programs in India and Indonesia. One of the interesting programs that we started about 10 years back was our engagement with fishermen in South India. And as you know that, fishermen, as they go out, any of you who have been to the coast have seen that, seas are quite choppy. And if you even go out, let's say you go out even 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers into the sea, because of the curvature of the Earth's surface, you cannot see the Earth. That's how it was proved that the Earth is round. And fishermen, as they go out, they face a lot of risks in the sea. And what we do is that using mobile technology, using a mobile app, we provide fishermen with information which leads to, their being able to fish safely in the seas. So there is a leading Indian scientific institution called Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. This is in Hyderabad, and this is truly a world-class institution. Jawaharlal Nehru, about 60 years back, he spoke about Bhakra Nangal being the temples of modern India. And now I would say that these are the temples of the 21st century, institutions like INCOIS. And they actually, INCOIS was set up to do tsunami prediction, and they kind of track earthquakes all over the world. And one of the services that they give is they actually track the oceans, like what is going to be the wind speed, what are going to be the wave heights in the oceans, and also using satellite imagery and sea surface temperature, they're also able to predict where the fish is going to be. And we actually provide this information using a mobile phone on a mobile app to the fishermen, which has led to increase in their incomes and, of course, safety in the seas. It was very interesting that nowadays, as all of you know, that cyclone prediction has become fairly robust. And whenever you hear about cyclones, you hear that we know that this is the way the cyclone landfall is going to happen, and the lives saved due to cyclones have reduced tremendously. Like in the late 90s, there was a cyclone where over, I think, about 10,000 people lost their lives. And now it's sad, but now the loss of lives is, I would say, in double-digit figures, sometimes high double digits, sometimes low double digits. It's really a feat. But very recently, there was a cyclone Oki, which was, which actually formed in the seas, and it formed very quickly. This is how natural disasters are. But through the Fisher Friend program, we were able to kind of communicate that information to fishermen, and fishermen have said that it has saved a lot of lives for them. So the reason I'm kind of highlighting these programs, that throughout there have been these innovations, and these innovations are saving lives, improving incomes. And maybe, the Fisher Friend program for all of us in Delhi, it's a very small program affecting probably just about 100,000 fishermen in the coast of India. But when these small programs aggregate, they kind of, they will contribute to this $5 trillion economy. Also, I just want to kind of, I actually took a lot of notes. I mean, I have about 10 pages of notes, and just the summary of notes that all of you have spoken. Very well presented arguments. But I think some of things that you missed out was that, of course, and it was actually touched upon. I wouldn't say it was missed out, which is that, China has a more central economy. So, for example, like, in China, China, we have seen, their own homegrown, I would say mobile apps or solutions. So, for example, like, so in China, you cannot get access to Twitter or Google or Facebook or something, and they have developed their own solutions. For example, WeChat is huge. I don't know if any of you have used WeChat. I mean, the entire China kind of, works on WeChat, and it's actually far more sophisticated than WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a messaging service, but in WeChat you have integrated everything. It's messaging plus Facebook plus e-commerce plus everything, and it's kind of, it's huge. I mean, I don't want to quote a number because, it would be inaccurate, but it's in billions of dollars, and that organized. So, I mean, these are differences which are there, and maybe, both the teams could have highlighted. Should we shut down, Twitter, Google, Facebook, Uber, and just have, our Chinese homegrown systems? A lot of people kind of say that. There was actually a initiative by some of the Indian e-commerce companies to kind of, regulate international e-commerce companies. But, then the fact is, Flipkart, even when it was not taken over by Walmart, was not actually an Indian company. It was actually majority owned by international companies. I think this debate of, whether we can follow or not follow is not something which would get resolved in this room. But I want to thank the Institute for inviting me and allowing me this opportunity to enlighten myself. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
That is a fitting conclusion to session 1 of the day, and we had some bright faces on the dais speaking for and against the motion, which is good. There is some passion there, I saw. There were no thumping on the podium, which normally one sees as well, right? But that is okay. But I want to thank all the 3 judges and jury. Do you have any comments? You got a mic right in front of you.
Add or highlight? Okay, that's really short. Actually, I also learned a lot from this debate. But actually, if you want me to say, then they have to focus on what's the Chinese model. And you need to define this. And then secondly, you continue what's the strength and what's the weakness of the Chinese model. And then you fight against each other. And then you can improve about the discussion. But for me, it is open. I mean, China have quite some, some kind of good and its development, also some kind of things is not so good enough. So, and then for Indian part, you have to say, maybe Indian can learn China from this part. But basically, it is Indian own. We are going to have our own approach. So I think this topic is very fair. Both sides can have very strong argument based on there. But it depends on how well you explore this possibility. So, but overall, I think you quite know about India and China in this discussion. I also learned a lot from there. Thank you very much. Okay.